Oh, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another Thursday night, another American Sci-Fi Classics quarantine panel. We're going to keep calling it quarantine panels even when we're out of quarantine. And we tonight are talking about one of the best movies, I'm going to say it, of 1991. Back in the olden times. It was in a previous century when this movie came out. And, but before we get started with that, we have some fun news about Dragon Con itself. You probably saw it on your social medias. Our first two big guests are happening. We are, Tom Welling and Michael Rosenbaum from Smallville are going to be on the American Sci-Fi Classics Track this year. They, in previous years, Smallville guests have been with our buddy Crowe on the American SF and Fantasy Media Track, which covers current things of the shows that are on right now. But as soon as Smallville stopped being on right now, then the countdown began for us to take it. And the countdown has struck. Here we go. So, Smallville panels are now us. And now I'm going to introduce, or allow them to introduce themselves, the remainder of our August personage tonight. Starting with one internet to my left, Darin.
For the record, it's July, not August. But anyway, hello, I'm Darin M. Bush. I'm a science fiction and fantasy short story author. I am also a contributor to several science fiction and fantasy conventions here in the Atlanta area, including the wonderful and fabulous Dragon Con and also Monsterama and Conjuration, which are coming up after Dragon Con, closer to the end of the year. So that's me.
Two internets away from me. Nathan.
Hi, I'm Nathan Laws. I'm the host of the 42 Cast, which is your ultimate answer to fandom, geekiness, and everything, which is where I and a rotating cast of people talk about anything and everything in geek media. And now that I have kicked Victor out of my house, I am happy to be back on these Dragon Con quarantine panels.
Victor Von Doom apparently invades your feed. The man has hacked you a couple of times. I say the man, I meant to say Lord Emperor Doom.
Right.
Please forgive me if you're listening in Latveria, which you probably are. And one internet south, I'm sure geographically that makes sense.
No.
Deanna, how are you?
I am good. I am Deanna. I am a teacher and a longtime geek and hanger out with Joe and Gary, and I'm just here to talk about Robin Hood.
We are excited to have you. We've been excited to have you so many times. We love having Deanna and people of your ilk on. And by your ilk, what I mean is people who could not physically join us at Dragon Con ever.
Well, maybe. We're working on a plan. It depends on whether or not my principal's going to let me take a day or two off. The joy of being a teacher, you really don't get to take time off during the school year.
Oh, I've been a teacher, I know. Good night, everybody. One internet south of me, not leastly, our next panelist, Jeff.
Hi, I'm Jeff Burns. I'm the host of Geeky Improv Comedy Show, Super Geeked Up. We do it Wednesday night, 11 p.m. Eastern, and we do it at Dragon Con, and I do things on a bunch of different tracks for Dragon Con and moderate a bunch of panels, and I'm happy to be here to talk about Robin Hood because it's on my top 5 movies of all time. I love this movie.
I also love this movie. Let's do this. Is it, question 1, maybe, is it your favorite Robin Hood movie?
No.
Darin?
No.
No.
Okay.
Which one is, Darin? Which one is?
That's a tough one. I'm partial to Errol Flynn.
Yes, sure.
I am, because just does such a great job of setting the standard. The the problem with Robin Hood movies is there are a gazillion of them. So it's almost like my favorite decade of Robin Hood movies, as opposed to a specific movie. But I've always been partial to the Errol Flynn Robin Hood.
Okay.
And
Excellent
Nathan.
choice.
It is probably my favorite Robin Hood, although the Disney one does hold a special place in my heart. And was probably my favorite Robin Hood movie before this one.
I think I'm right there with you. Deanna.
No. Errol Flynn is my favorite Robin Hood movie. The Disney one is also amazing. I cannot believe as a child I had feelings for a fox. And I have to give a shout out, because I'm Canadian and it's Canada Day, to the very cheesily wonderful Rocket Robin Hood TV show, because that's a Canadian production that, because of CanCon rules, I got to watch a lot. So yeah.
I thought that you, when you started out your sentence about the Canadian thing, I thought we were going to go ahead and start talking about Bryan Adams already, but no.
Well, yeah, there is a lot of CanCon in this.
We'll
There's other points of CanCon in this movie than Bryan Adams.
Okay, I have a question to ask, because I'm not a Robin Hood aficionado.
Okay.
Does oh god, I already lost his name. Does Brian Blessed appear in any other Robin Hood movies?
Ooh, good question. I would argue if he isn't in any other Robin Hood movies, he would probably be in a TV show with Robin Hood, because the BBC every so often likes to resurrect Robin Hood as a television show. Sure, I think they've done at least 4 versions of it that I have seen. So not that I can remember, but I'm sure IMDb could solve all of our problems.
Sure. No, I mean,
but
I'm
I
just
don't
saying
remember.
Brian Blessed player presence elevates this to the greatest Robin Hood movie of all time.
I mean, he's brilliant in this.
This is good.
I found a second Brian Blessed Robin Hood appearance already.
There you go. Yeah.
Oh wow,
We're up to 2.
Which is it, a movie or a TV?
It's Robin Hood: The Rebellion from 2018.
No way.
Well, see there,
How
I haven't
awesome
even
is
seen that yet. That's
And
the Lockett movie.
That's good. Oldest Robin Hood movie dates back to 1908.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Not surprised.
So, for everyone complaining about how cheesy Superman or Spider-Man looked in the 70s, just imagine how the types looked in 1908. So Jeff, favorite Robin Hood movie? Is this your favorite Robin Hood movie?
Hands down, not even close. This is my favorite Robin Hood movie. Though I will say, you mentioned the Disney one. On our show all the time, our viewers tell us how sexy they think the fox looks, even to this day when they're adults. So
See?
they're very crushing on the fox. Yep. There he is, right there. Darren's got him.
There he is. There he is. I gotta say, it's very strong commentary, because it's not even the one we're talking about tonight. But that movie's good.
I think the whole generation watched that movie, and kind of, I think it was the intro to the Robin Hood mythos for a lot of us.
Yeah. I of course saw the movie like on Disney's Wonderful World of Disney on Sunday nights, or I remember having the storybook, which I must have read 750 times, And so that was my first encounter with Robin Hood. But never mind all that.
Oh, I was going to say one more thing about the Disney Robin Hood. I watched it so many times that I knew that the hamster dance was the Alan Adale. Do. That is actually from the beginning of the Disney Robin Hood. It's just been sped up for the hamster dance. So there's your internet lore for the day.
Internet lore for the day. Everybody take notes. So, Robin Hood, I almost said Men in Tights. Shut it down.
Also a very good version of Robin Hood, but for a completely different reason.
Yeah. It's an excellent version of Prince of Thieves. It's actually, I think, a better movie than Prince of Thieves, but it wouldn't exist without Prince of Thieves.
But here's
it just wouldn't exist, right?
Have we ever blasted a topic so thoroughly before we even got started? There's
more.
Gary. Hello, Gary Mitchell.
Hey,
fashionably late.
Well, no, some fox was holding up in the woods, and I kept saying, "Dude, no!"
Did you give him your mutton?
I gave him a little something.
What are we
I heard.
talking about?
Yeah, but I agree with what was said earlier that I believe the Disney Robin Hood is a lot of people's gateway Robin Hood. It's also a lot of people's gateway furry. So, make of that what you will.
So much going on.
My understanding, I was hoping we would get to this officially, but I'm just going to throw this in here. I don't remember the exact
you do everything.
statistics, but I think that at one point Robin Hood as a character was in more movies than only one other person, and that was Jesus. So he's a very popular topic for movies.
Yeah.
Well, people love that concept of, steal from the scumbag rich and give to the deserving poor, because we all want to be the scumbag rich, but most of us are those, grubby poor people. So
it's
Living
also
in the
copyright free. Let's be blunt.
Mhm.
You
That's
can
a
make
whole
whatever
other-
version
yeah.
of it you want. Case in
like
point,
a Rocket Robin Hood.
awesome, cheesy as heck, like
I
really
knew
bad.
it was. I figured I'd beat you to the punch in bringing that up.
Oh, too late. I already
She
brought
already
it
did.
Yeah,
Uh,
actually, yes. Already did.
up. It was my cartoons were rare for certain Canadian television stations, and Rocket Robin Hood was CanCon, so it counted towards the amount of Canadian content that they had to show every day. So believe me, I saw a lot of it. Yeah, no, there's a rule here in Canada that broadcasters have to show a certain percentage of Canadian content, and so that's where you get your Murdoch mysteries, their Heat of the Night, and Rocket Robin Hood. So those
Bryan
are
Adams
shows.
videos. Were those the only ones you could watch? Bryan Adams videos?
No. But the music channels, our version of MTV Much Music had to show a certain percentage of Canadian bands, and the same thing with radio stations. They have to play a certain percentage of Canadian music every day.
And this is not
Now-
a complaint, because Canada is awesome.
No,
Now,
thank
Kevin
you.
Cafferty in the comments brings up actually one of my favorite Robin Hood movies.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah,
great
I've seen
Robin Hood movie. It's so wonderful.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
I do want to bring up Lola's comment that multiple versions of Robin Hood, which would be a Robin Herd.
No. Mm-mm.
Oh,
Gary, that's
they'd
your
all be
fault.
they'd be the Forest Boys in the Hood.
Yeah.
So Prince of Thieves, everybody.
Yes,
What?
Wait, which panel is this, Nathan?
Prince of
We're
Thieves.
talking about Robin Hood.
Yeah.
So
My brother was going through his Christian Slater phase, so I had to watch this like 50 times.
But he was, I mean, when you talk about a Christian Slater phase, this movie, for the time it was made, was packed with stars of that era, right? You get Kevin Costner, you get Christian Slater, you get a cameo by Sean Connery, you get
Morgan Freeman.
Yeah, Morgan Freeman. So
Oh,
this
Morgan
is like
Freeman.
a cavalcade
Oh,
of
yeah.
who's who from
Yeah.
that time. And,
Well,
by
that
the
was-
casting alone, well, we were concerned initially about their accents at the beginning, but the casting alone said Hollywood blockbuster, right? Like that's
Well,
what this is.
Yeah, well, Kevin Costner was like one of the hottest properties in Hollywood at the time. He's coming off of Dances with Wolves. He's coming off of
Yeah, we call this movie Dances with Arrows in my house,
Yes.
because that's essentially, it's, the guy comes back from war and finds his place with these people. So, yeah.
Yeah, speaking of the casting, though, I mean, for me, I was fairly young when this came out. I was 11. This was my first Alan Rickman movie and my first Morgan Freeman movie. And frankly, even watching it today, they're the two standout performances in the movie. Like,
Yes,
they are
that's the only
both
reason.
amazing.
No,
Alan
let's
Rick-
be clear. It's Alan Rickman's movie. It really is.
it absolutely
And
is.
And I'll bring this up now. There's a reason why. He actually knew the script was bad, and so he actually sat down in what the British version of Pizza Hut is. I think it's called a Pizza Express, with two of his friends, and
Pizza
said,
Hut,
"Help
HUTTE.
me."
No?
And the two friends helped him go through the script, and they rewrote all sorts of his lines, and he would just show up on set and deliver these lines. And so many of the iconic lines that we know his performance from this movie were his. And that's Sir Guy de Gisborne says that one, but why a spoon?
Yeah.
He's not a sir in this one. Actually, it's interesting. That's a whole other topic. They make Guy not a noble. He's normally a noble, but whatever.
That is one of the things I like to bring up about this movie is this is one of the first ones to really put the emphasis on the sheriff as the bad guy, because in almost everything up until here, it's Sir Guy stealing the throne.
Yeah.
that
Yeah,
the
or-
big
or-
bad and the
or
sheriff is
helping,
just
or
his
helping
enforcer.
Prince John to steal the throne from Richard,
Yeah.
right? Like that's and the sheriff is an underling of Guy de Gisborne, but in this one, I'm going to call him Guy the whole way through, guys. Sorry, but Guy is the underling of the sheriff. But the line, "You come at 7, you come at 10:30, bring a friend."
Yes.
That's straight from this rewrite. So these are all. So if you watch this movie, Alan Rickman's performance comes because Alan Rickman knew he had to do something with this because there wasn't a lot to work with.
Oh yeah.
Lines written in ye old Pizza Hut with an E.
Pizza Express, apparently, but yeah.
Pizza Hutty, Hutte.
That's not the worst joke I'm going to tell tonight, but
No, it's not. And Rickman adds such interesting moments to the film, like when he starts to get frustrated and he stabs the sacrificial meat with the knife and just goes, whatever, now I've stabbed you. It's just
Something vexes thee. And she delivers it so deadpan. So good.
I don't know if you guys are familiar with this theater style, but do you know what a British pantomime is?
For our viewers who don't,
Kind of, sort
Okay,
of,
so
like,
a
in
British-
context.
A British pantomime is a form of theater that's normally sort of a children's theater, and they retell fairy tales and folk tales. So frequently, up here where I lived growing up, there was a troupe that would come out of Toronto every Christmas and would do a panto, it's called actually in Britain. But they'll do like Dick Whittington, they'll do the Puss in Boots and Cinderella, that kind of stuff. And Robin Hood is frequently a topic of a panto. And in the pantomimes, the villain is hugely cartoonish. And when he steps out on the stage, the audience, who is primarily children, boo him. Boo! And then he'll break the fourth wall and turn to the audience and go, "Shut up!" Right? And he'll yell at the kids. So there's a bit of an interactiveness to keep the kids interested in a play, and there's humor for the parents. There's normally a man dressed as a woman in the play because, again, that's part of British theater. Look at your Monty Pythons, and normally that person's playing the mother of the hero. And so really, when I watched this movie the first time, having seen many British, like that kind of panto style performance, I thought he's doing a pantomime villain. That's who he's doing. He is if there was an audience live, they would be booing him and he would be screaming back at them, and there would be that kind of interplay going on.
Oh, yeah.
But because it's a movie, it's not happening.
So tell me this: now that we've gone the usual deep dive into British theatre, now Jeff, tell us why this is one of your top 5 favorite movies.
For me, it's just like it's the perfect blend of everything. Like it's got an awesome adventure. But it also doesn't. It has great humor in it too, right? I think it doesn't take itself too seriously. And I think that's something we're really lacking in most movies nowadays, that we don't have that like fun action with comedy in them. And it has awesome romance too, right? And friendship and the bond. It's like, I don't know, for me, it's like everything I love in movies combined in an awesome way. And it brought in things to the Robin Hood, like Azim's character, right? Stuff that we hadn't seen before in the Crusades. Stuff that I thought worked really well, actually, updating the Robin Hood myth, keeping a lot of stuff that was there, but then updating it to the 90s. And so I don't know. I think like everything works for me in this movie. And like you said, like iconic performances. And I know you guys, and I agree, Alan Rickman is amazing in this movie, and Morgan Freeman, but I pretty much like everyone's performance in this movie. I don't give Kevin Costner a hard time because of the accent. I get it, but look, I'm focusing on his performance, not the accent. The accent's not going to ruin it for me. So I know everybody gives him a hard time about that, but yeah.
That's the thing. He's Robin Hood, and if you buy into, we're watching a Robin Hood movie, this is a crazy good edition of Robin Hood because, like you said, it has all the 80s movie things, even though it's from 1991, which is still pretty much the 80s.
Well, 1991 is the 80s hangover.
Yeah. And so, but it put all the Robin Hood stuff in with all the 80s things and just smooshed them all up. And it's it's so fun. It did not take itself seriously at all. And when I guess my first exposure being the Robin Hood Disney cartoon, which is hilarious, but also, deadly serious when it has to be, this movie brought in a lot of the humor and the fun of what a Robin Hood story is supposed to be.
An adventure.
Yeah. Like y'all were saying, it was my gateway drug to going back and reading I don't know if it's the Robin Hood story, because who the heck knows what the official Robin Hood story is. Again, that's not Deanna, of course.
That lady over there.
Yeah, I did a master's degree and I did medieval history as one of my seminars, and one of my research topics was the historicity of Robin Hood, because as a teenager I was in a drama program and I wrote a Robin Hood play that was produced by the program, where I made Robin Hood a girl because there were too many girls in the program, and we needed female roles badly, because there just weren't enough people. So because of that, I've cultivated a lifelong love of this story, and but this panel's not about the historicity of Robin Hood, where the Robin Hood tales actually come from. If you want that, Pet, we can do that, but we can talk about the movie
instead. It is on topic, though, because this movie touted this is the true historical version. That's why we're calling him Robin of Locksley rather than Robin Hood. And, there were all those things that came on around this time that were like, this is going to be the true historical version.
Yeah.
And of course, it's all nonsense, but that was how they were touting it.
Hollywood was big
I don't remember that being
time.
touted that at all that way, actually. Are you sure? That's how it was touted?
Oh, yes. There were a lot of behind the scenes and documentaries of the film that were saying that.
Sure, probably, yeah. They got
probably produced by a PR flack, but yeah, the original Robin Hood tales actually mention a King Edward, not a King Richard. And so the theory is that they were written around the time or placed in the time of King Edward II. But it's in the 16th century they get moved to King Richard's time. But Robin Hood also was a yeoman. He wasn't a nobleman in the original tales. So, I mean, they're fascinating. The best part is that, and this is something that one of my professors pointed out to me, when you read the original Robin Hood tales, he's supposed to be this big hero who can defeat everybody. But in almost every single original Robin Hood tale, he gets his butt kicked by the miller, the baker, the butcher. So it's like he gets into a fight with some medieval career path, and that person beats him. And it's really because they come out of the minstrel tale tradition, and so these people are singing, trying to sing for their supper, or entertain the person who's hosting them that night. So, I have a tale for you. Here, you're a butcher. I have a tale about Robin Hood the butcher to tell you. And so they're all medieval poetry. Lots of yees and yos and stuff like that.
Was Maid Marian a fox in any of those stories?
No, and in fact, Maid Marian gets added to the tales she's originally associated with May Day, and Robin Hood tales would traditionally be told around May Day, and so the Maid Marian gets added into the tales because the tales would be told around the same time.
We only got 16 hours. We got to condense this stuff down.
Right. It just sounds like how our third and fifth has changed over time.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the same thing actually with our, a whole bunch of medieval tales, but we won't get into that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Deanna.
No problem.
But I kind of want to get back to
every study.
Yeah, I kind of also want to get back to the casting. Is one of the reasons, though, I really love this movie, because we've touched on some of it. Everybody busts on Costner because of the accent, but he's still solid. Morgan Freeman, we mentioned. Christian Slater, we mentioned. But also Michael McShane's Friar Tuck.
Oh, gosh.
Brilliant.
I was a fan of his from being on Whose Line Is It Anyway, the British version.
Okay.
So seeing him was just a joy, and he is fantastic in the role.
Yeah, Michael Wincott as Guy Gisborne. I love him, man. He's so awesome.
Canadian.
Yeah, if you need a bad guy with a sword, you got him, because he was also
and the voice.
Top dollar, and
he's the bad guy voice.
Yeah. To me, I see this movie as Kevin Costner surrounded by a stellar supporting cast.
Yeah,
that's
I don't think Kevin Costner's performance is as strong as the rest of you do. I think there are problems with it, and it's not the accent, although the accent pulls you out. But he's not the only one struggling with the accent through this performance either. But the supporting cast, mostly of British actors, British character actors, stunning. Like, just
Nick's Little John is fantastic. Nick Brimble.
That scene where he's on the bridge on the other side of the on the other tree screaming at Meg, and the bridge has fallen and they're under attack, and just such good acting. Like, just they are really good at what they do. The little kid is amazing. Like, it's just like so the supporting cast is phenomenal. Top
generally notch. I agree with that. Generally, a movie like this, they front load it with all the big names, all the A-listers, and then they just get whoever comes in and doesn't and can remember a line to do the rest of the cast. But in this case, you've got your A-list famous American blockbuster people, and then after that, you've got a super solid cacophony? That's not
collection.
what a
Collection.
Cadre. A cadre of British actors, of 5-star British actors that make up the rest of the thing. And it's amazing.
I do want, because even though we name checked him, we haven't really talked about Morgan Freeman as Azim, and he is my favorite character. Despite the fact that Alan Rickman is brilliant in the movie and is a fantastic villain, as a kid watching this, I thought Azim was the coolest character in this whole thing. And that's what's really fascinating about it, because normally, if you're going to add, like, you know, in that time period, if you're going to add a person of color or whatever into, like, the Robin Hood mythos, you'd pick a sidekick. Azim is Robin Hood's equal, and in many ways his superior.
Oh yeah.
You know, in the movie, they highlighted the fact that, you know, in the Muslim world at the time, they were way more technically advanced than the Europeans were. You know, and he knew a lot about a lot of different things. You know, from optics to medicine to, you know, all kinds of stuff that they had no clue on. And just Morgan Freeman is just so good at it. He's so likable, and you know, you just can't take your eyes off of him when he's on the screen.
If it's me, what I would have done, I would have made sure somehow, you know, like you do when legends are told and they add things, I would have just put Azim in every Robin Hood story from that point on. I mean, it's all public domain anyway. Just I don't care. Azim should have been in there from that point. Good stuff.
Well, it's because of Morgan Freeman's Azim that we get Chappelle's character, Men in Tights. So,
Achoo.
Yes,
but also I don't know the name of the actor, but the woman who plays the witch.
Oh, she's amazing.
Witch.
Geraldine McEwen.
Yeah,
thank you.
I have IMDb up.
She does such a good job of being all creepy and big eyes and casting, you know, cutting herself. And why? Okay, quick side note. Why do they always cut their own hands?
That's stupid.
Why is this the most obvious?
Cut this. Much
I'm like sitting there, just because won't be inconvenient.
It looks good cinematically.
It looks good, and there are more blood vessels here, so it's easier to get to the blood. You try to cut yourself on the arm, and you have to cut deeper to get the.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah, but no one wants to. Yeah, but no one except wrestlers want to blade their forehead because then it gets in your eyes.
Gary, I was going to say that same thing.
Wrestler. We're back to wrestling. But
here
anyway,
we go.
so
back to
I wanted to say somebody mentioned how this inspired other movies. You know, of course it did. But I am convinced that the witch's scenes, especially near the end where she confronts the Moor, I think there's several scenes that inspired Sam Raimi's Army of Darkness.
Oh yeah,
really?
Easy.
Well, she's also acting under incredible makeup, because if you she's not that old when they shoot this, so she's delivering this performance through layers of prosthetics and latex that is, you know. So yeah, you have a good argument there about the Army of Darkness.
Army of Darkness,
very this. It influenced. I can see that, and we also have not name dropped Brian Blessed.
I did. You're late. You were late.
I said that's what elevates this above other Robin Hood movies.
It's Brian Blessed.
I just wanted to shout.
Turns out,
and he's been in another one too.
Yeah, it's not his only Robin Hood appearance.
So Brian Blessed is still crushing it. Just 3 years ago, getting back in the Robin Hood business.
Yep. And when Brian Blessed played Blackadder's father, which king was he?
Richard, one of the Richards.
He was was he Richard the Fourth?
Was it Richard? Wait, I have to.
So
think.
he's
No.
Lola. Whenever you type
that.
Brian Blessed's name, you have to do it in all caps.
Brian
Blessed.
Upper lower.
I have to think. Wait.
Richard the Fourth, Kevin says.
Yeah,
so there's a deleted scene. There's a deleted scene where all of the cultists are standing outside Brian Blessed's castle, going, "What is taking so long?" He's got to put his armor on, you know.
I'm just sad that we missed him saying, "Robin's alive."
Surely.
Well, and also like he was on set for what, a day? Like, you know, and same with Sean Connery, like shot a day, right? And yet there's like the layering is so lovely. It's just it's neat.
Connery's one of the best cameos in any film, I think. In this movie.
He really is.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Yeah,
and that was before internet, right? We didn't know. Nobody knew he was going to be in it.
No one
Total
knew.
surprise.
Yeah.
No, it was shock.
I just remember being in the theater and hearing the "I object" and going, "Wait, that's."
Yeah.
Yep. Which leads us to the Patrick Stewart cameo in Men in Tights, right? Like, just.
Oh yeah.
Well, we have to admit, like we said earlier, Men in Tights is 90% a shot at this movie.
Yeah, no.
Oh,
we wouldn't have had that movie without this movie, and for that I am eternally grateful because I love that movie. Like that movie is hilarious.
It is, and also Eddie Izzard's version of Robin Hood is pretty good too. If you should be able to catch on YouTube.
Now, you got to find that.
It is very funny. His take on Robin Hood is very funny.
So. Kind of getting back on the topic though of this movie, what is everybody's favorite scene?
Read my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then go first.
I think one of my favorite moments from the technical side, technical part of my brain, is when there are 7 people hanging from nooses, and someone and Little John is pushing the whole gibbet over. And you can see all the bodies swinging free while he's pushing it. It's just for like a part of a second. But just like that was very impressive from kind of a technical side of things.
That's actually my favorite scene too, because the whole just the way that they sneak in, the whole planning, everyone working in coordination to free their people, right? And then like you said that, but also that when he does the shot with the flaming arrow, right? And it's slow motion, it's such a cinematic shot.
Oh yeah,
right. And then right to the executioner, and he falls straight back. Yeah, I don't know. It's like just that scene's just done so well. And there's also comedy in it with like, "Oh, my leprous friend, let's go." And they're like, "What leper?"
Leaving little bits of himself all over the kingdom. Is this your finger?
Yeah. That's the thing, man. They even work comedy into scenes you wouldn't expect it in, which I love.
Yeah. So, Nathan, favorite scene?
This is really hard because this is a movie that has a lot of really great like set pieces and scenes and all the, like the different bits, I would say easily that the most quotable line and the thing that I probably said the most was, "I'm going to cut your heart out with a spoon," because that was so good, so unexpected. But I don't know, like favorite scene, I think maybe, it might be the whole thing like Gary was bringing out Friar Tuck and how good Friar Tuck is when they first bring him in. And just how crazy that is with, they're just like, "Oh, you're going to have to give this stuff up." And he's like, "Oh, Robin Hood." And then he just starts fighting and he won't give up. And he's even like gnawing on Robin's leg at one point.
Yeah, that's great.
And then now they have to like harness him and get him to pull the cart and everything.
Oh.
That's a really funny bit.
So, Deanna.
I've already mentioned the scene. It's the scene with Little John and Meg on opposite sides. And the reason behind that is actually Little John bears more than a passing resemblance to my father. And those people that know my father or knew my father, he was a bear when it came to his children. If his children were in danger, if his loved ones were in danger, he would react irrationally and do things that were not really good ideas, but in his attempt to rescue people and help them. I remember as a child I was playing by a fish pond that I shouldn't have been playing by, and I slipped in, and my dad was inside with my uncle in my uncle's house, and my dad comes running out and vaults over the back steps of the house. So this cement set of steps that are like, a good 6 feet off the ground. My dad vaults over them to get to me in time so I don't drown in a fish pond that probably wasn't that deep. But, just so that scene reminds me of my dad. And to this day, I feel like I should sue the makers of that film for copyright infringement because that's my dad. It's my dad.
I like Ryan Schweik's suggestion of the sexy waterfall scene.
That's the winner right there. That's the 100%.
That always reminds me of the In Living Color thing, Men on Film, where they had the film critics and they kept talking about Costner's butt double.
Yeah.
Did he have a butt double?
That's what they said. I don't know if
that's actually more common in Hollywood than you know.
I like to imagine it's really his butt, though.
I like to imagine I
think Kevin Costner has the acting integrity that he would not use a stunt.
To show his butt, yeah.
He's not gonna do a stunt butt. Look, I'm Kevin Costner. I'm gonna do my real butt.
Please don't do a panel on butt doubles.
Oh,
hey,
no.
2 years ago, Kelly did a panel on the sexiest butts in.
Darin, not only are we doing a butt double panel, you're now moderating.
I'm moderating.
Yes,
and you have to show your butt.
As the Sci-Fi Classic Track's chief butt.
I did not know that Kelly did that, so I'm going to give her points somehow for doing the panel. That is amazing.
Speaking of the waterfall, though, another of my favorite scenes is when he first meets Little John and the men, and they have that great fight in the river.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Again, it's so much fun. Like, particularly when he realizes, like, that's your father, and then they have the stab fight, and it's great fun. I love
Put your feet down. Another scene that was yanked for Men in Tights. That was very funny in Men in Tights.
I'm drowning.
When Robin and Marion descend on the vines or the big rope swing in the awesome forest treehouse playset.
Yeah,
they got that from the Ewoks.
Yeah. I wish. That's like equivalent to Superman and Lois to me. That is, it's the same, had the same impact, the same effect.
Oh yeah, perfect romantic shot.
And that is a perfect segue to what Sherman mentioned earlier, that when the movie came out and they were doing the toy line, they reused the Ewok village from Star Wars to do the. Do Robin Hood's Sherwood Forest, and I know there are quite a few Star Wars collectors that's how they have an Ewok village.
They got the Robin Hood one, and they said, "Oh no, this is totally Ewoks. I don't know what you're talking about."
Yep, and as Sherman also points out, Friar Tuck was a converted Gamorrean guard.
That is a Star Wars figure I actually have. So
I didn't even know they came out with a playset for this movie.
Oh yeah,
I wish I had it.
It's cheaper to get than the Ewok village.
Okay, everybody, go to eBay right now. We'll all get together and play Robin Hood in a couple of weeks. We'll all do it. We'll have like a StreamYard Robin Hood playtest.
Yeah. Joe, throw up Ryan's comment there.
Where is that? There it is.
Get the missing parts.
Sweet. Genius. That's
so now what we need now is that mashup of Robin Hood, Ewok in tights.
Oh, Gary. You've spoken it into existence now. Someone's
But Ewoks don't wear pants.
Archive of our own. Here we come.
Now we're back to butt doubles.
Right.
Now we're back.
Lots of waterfalls in that movie. Shots.
And of course,
Bryan Adams just steps out at the end. What are y'all doing?
He's new Anakin Force Ghost.
With
Yeah,
as many times as they've revised it, I wouldn't be surprised if we get another
You
one.
just put Bryan Adams in. Yeah.
With Bryan.
You could make a very big argument that Han Solo owes a lot to Robin Hood, of the various versions of Robin Hood. You could make, or that this version, like some of the versions of Robin Hood, owe a lot to Han Solo. There's a master's or a PhD thesis in that.
Oh yeah.
There is, but what about Bryan Adams? Why did you try to change the subject, Deanna? I don't appreciate that at all. Bryan Adams steps into the pitch and says, "You know what? I'll make a song about Robin Hood that doesn't mention him at all and has nothing to do with the story that's happening."
Well,
No, it does. That's what their love. It's the song about him and Marion's love. This is like one of my favorite songs too. I can't believe one of my favorite songs is in one of my favorite movies. This never happens. Like, I love that song.
I mean, the thing I was thinking when I rewatched this was like, this was the less annoying version of the Titanic song, because just like the Titanic song, this was everywhere for like a year. You heard this song on the radio.
Good,
but
that's
it
great.
But it was way better than the Titanic song, which made me want to kill myself with how much it was played. I never lost like the good feeling from hearing this.
The irony is both Celine Dion and Bryan Adams are Canadian, and like Celine Dion, at the time this movie was released, Bryan Adams was ubiquitous. He was everywhere. This was sort of his height of his popularity. And again, CanCon, I've having been to Bryan Adams concerts, it was everywhere, and it was just another one of his. It was like he could do no wrong. Everything he wrote would be this massive hit for about a 3-4 year run, and then it starts to peter off. And
we have to remember, like in the 80s and a little bit in the 70s, but especially in the 80s, when we've already admitted 91 is an 80s hangover. That was the thing. Every year there was one movie that had one song that was the breakaway pop hit. Berlin's "Take My Breath Away," this song, the one from Three Musketeers.
Also, Bryan Adams is 1/3 of that.
Also, and so, that one very specifically about the Musketeers.
Yeah, but
just because they used the credo. That's the only difference. They used the motto of the Musketeers.
You're correct.
But there was always that pop song from the movie, tangentially related to the movie. Like there's always a barely tenuous connection, but then it was inescapable on the radio.
Let me ask you this, Joe.
Okay.
Joe, why do you feel the song has to reflect the movie? Because nowadays, none of the music at the end of the credits usually has anything to do with the movie whatsoever.
Oh yeah.
You know what? I think you're right. I think I'm applying modern day soundtrack usage to back in the 90s when movie soundtracks were good, young people.
I agree with that.
Because I had this soundtrack on the cassette, and you know what? My main memory of this song is when it came out. The movie came out in 1991. I was in college and I was doing my own talk show at the University of Montevallo in Montevallo, Alabama, and we were allowed to show videos on student productions up to a certain point. Well, I had long blown past the legal limit, and I was trying to fill time on a 30-minute show because my guest didn't show up.
Oops.
Because of college. And so I said, you know what? Here's this video by Bryan Adams. And I played that thing, and I thought, I'm a genius. And then I got yelled at by my professor. And then I told him, I wasn't doing this for a grade. And he went, oh, I was just doing a show on my own because I'm an idiot. But I played that.
Nothing has changed.
It was great. Nothing has changed.
Yeah. Can I say real quick, though, that the opening theme I love as well, this movie, and has been reused in other things since.
Oh, has it?
I'm almost positive. I've heard it in other places. It's so iconic. I feel that opening.
Yeah.
I have to check for sure, though.
Are you suggesting that Bryan Adams got paid more than once for this?
No, the opening theme has nothing to do with Bryan Adams. That's the score. That's the score.
Michael Kamen, I mean, did this, and it's a good. I mean, it's a good score. I mean, I own it. You know, I own the soundtrack to this movie, and you know, it's
score.
Yeah,
and Michael Kamen's also credited as a writer on Everything I Do.
Nice.
So that's why you get that. It's kind of used as the love theme for Robin and Marion. During their scenes, you'll get the like that little sort of very iconic piece of the song if you listen to the soundtrack. So yeah,
it's a great point. Yeah,
I have this image in my head of Robin handing Marion one of the two earbuds and go, "Can we listen to this song together on my, you know?" Because there's that little, the refrain comes up, and like every time the two of them are on screen together, you hear the Bryan Adams music in the background there.
That's nice.
And let's talk about Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio. She's great as Marion.
She does a very good job in this. Again, like the supporting cast in this movie, and I can sit like it's a Robin Hood story, so maybe you might say she's the love interest, but it's a Robin Hood story. It's about Robin, and she does a phenomenal job with what she's got. She struggles from time to time with the accent, but you know, she's not the only one, so I'm not going to fault her for that.
And she's got more agency than some of the Marions of the past. You know, she gives, you know, she fights off the guys who come to take her for a while, and you know, I mean, she's actually
she fights Robin.
Yeah, right, exactly. So I mean, she's got some presence.
She's the designated cross-dresser in this movie.
Yeah.
I also think they have great. They have really good chemistry.
Think about it.
Yeah, I think they have really good chemistry though. Her and Costner. Like, I really like their relationship.
Yeah, I buy it.
Yeah, I buy the relationship. But I also like the fact that this movie does a very good job of showing you what the consequences of the Crusades are, and the fact that the sheriff isn't inventing the situation; he's exploiting something that already exists. So Marion is giving out the alms to the poor at the, you know, right after the service, and she's dealing with feeding the hungry, and she's trying to be the like liaison between the evil, sinister crap which she knows is going on and the court and royalty and everything, even though she doesn't buy into all that silliness with the court. So I think this is a great interpretation of Marion. Even if the Robin Hood interpretation is questionable, I think this is a great Marion because she really does. She deals with the consequences. She's the one who is not playing boys with arrows in the trees. Like I forget what the line was exactly that she actually says in the movie.
Yeah,
that's a great point. Yeah.
Well, and she's still portrayed as a woman, and her ways of fighting back, her ways of subverting are more traditional. I'm not going to say they're perfectly medieval because we know that the representation of Hollywood is not perfect. But if you look at other representations, you know, where you get Marions who are also, you know, bow and arrow fighting. So if you're looking at it as a representation of what a medieval woman was, she's a medieval noblewoman. She's a cousin to the king in this story. And so she's using whatever tools she has to subvert and support. And they're different tools.
And I know we talked about Alan Rickman already, but the moment with the stiletto.
Yes.
Where he realizes what just stabbed him and looks at her and goes, "What?" It's such a great moment. It's such a great little device that floats around in little bits and pieces of the movie.
Well, I'm glad you brought him up because I think this to me, I know that there are rankings out there of his performances, and this always ranks fairly high, but I happen to think this is probably his best performance. You can disagree with me. You can tell me Love Actually. I don't like Harry Potter's Snape is just a toned down version of this particular caricature. I know, you know, Die Hard he's brilliant in, but I happen to think he's also brilliant in that too. But I happen to think he throws himself into this role. And now that I know even more about this story, about the fact that he actually rewrote his lines so he'd have something to work with, I see a man who's committed to his craft and basically delivers in my opinion, the saving blow for this movie. This movie would have been forgotten, and I don't think would have done as well commercially without him and what he does. Because what did you leave the theater talking about? You left the theater talking about his performance and how fun he was and how much you laughed at him. Yeah,
this movie is the one that pretty much launched him. I mean, he'd been around for a bit. He was fantastic in Quigley Down Under. He was great in January Man and Die Hard. But this is the one that made pop culture go, who's that guy?
Really? Yeah. I would actually argue Hans Gruber is the one, because people still talk about that as much as this.
Right, but this was a PG-13 movie, remember? So younger people were watching this and were watching Die Hard. So I think that for like the pop, because again, I was 11 at the time. So I mean, like I was at an age where I could watch this, but not Die Hard. So yeah.
And this is also a movie that, I mean, this got played at, you know, because of course we're talking about the age of videotape too, right? So this comes out on videotape. It's something you rent on a Friday night and can watch with the whole family. It gets bought by many a family and many a youth group. And again, it's something we can watch together, right? Like at a camp or at school on a rainy day.
It is a inoffensive, safe movie you can throw in front of anybody.
Yeah, I saw this
movie.
So many people's houses, they had this movie.
Except, I was hoping you guys were going to give me a prompt for this. I worked at Blockbuster when it came out. Blockbuster at the time had 7,000 stores for kids. This is Netflix in a building. Anyway, so
ask your parents.
Ask your parents. So, or ask me. Blockbuster allowed me to play this movie in the store during the day. So every time the Christian Slater F-bomb would come around, I would just go, like, hope there were no small children in the store. And I was like,
well, they're allotted one.
Right, they're allotted one, but Blockbuster allowed that scene to be unedited in the store during the day.
That is surprising. That is, yeah.
And I'm just sitting there going, please don't let there be any children.
Well, I mean,
you should have just yelled something every time it came on.
Yeah, right.
And it's an F-bomb but I think it's an F-bomb that slips through the radar pretty quick. I mean, it's most people, I think, know what.
I think if you were it's the catapult, right? It's the catapult, right?
I watch everything with subtitles on now, but back then I did, and I never knew what he was saying in that scene. I used to.
It's hard to actually hear exactly.
I couldn't quite make out the word that he's actually saying, and so I was like, I never knew until I watched it with subtitles. And I was like, oh,
let's do this. We've talked about all of the big stars of the movie so far. We haven't really touched on Christian Slater.
Joe, I'd just like to circle back to what Darin said, though, really quickly about the F-bomb. I think one of the things we forget living now in the age we live in, you go back and watch 80s movies, which I've been doing a lot of with my son because you want to relive your childhood, and this is a really cool movie. And the amount of like incidental frontal female nudity, like from waist up, and F-bombs that get dropped in 80s movies is actually quite shocking, and I don't remember that. Like, you'll literally watch a movie and suddenly there are boobs or somebody is swearing. I had this happen with Ferris Bueller's Day Off, which you think is a fairly innocuous teen movie, which I not the boobs, but the swearing. And I showed it to my class, and all of a sudden the principal starts swearing, and I'm like, whoa, like, when did that? I had no memory of that. So I think we forget.
I thought you meant your principal for a second.
Yeah, so did I. He's like, "What are you doing, showing this?"
Career-ending moment. But no, I mean, it's just, but we forget that was actually more like in movies that were for families. That was more common in the 80s, and now
I didn't forget.
Well, part of that, and Sean Rosato actually has a whole rant on this, but we also have to remember that at the time the rating system was G, PG, R, and X. So if you weren't an R, which was hard violence, pretty much exclusively hard violence and sex, you got thrown in PG. So that's how Ghostbusters, which now would be like a PG-13, is PG. PG covered so much. That's part of the reason there was the whole kerfluffle that created the PG-13, is that if it wasn't G and it wasn't R, it just landed right there. So a lot of stuff that today we think wouldn't fly, it was just like, well, it's a PG movie. We let the parents make the call.
And I also really quickly, Gary, want to comment on it is really obvious that Morgan Freeman's sword doesn't actually make contact with some of the Celts. I mean, it's just like
there's a little bit of that.
a Celt walks up, Morgan Freeman goes like this, and the Celt goes, ugh, and that's it. And you can see the whole thing on camera. So it's not going for this could have been an R-rated movie easily. It's an R-rated
Just needed
story.
more blood.
There is an R-rated cut that exists now that they market as the extended version.
Release the extended Robin Hood cut. Hashtag release.
Well, I think he's saying they've already released it.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
He's
never
already
mind.
they have.
Look, it worked. It worked,
I mean,
guys.
it's a lot of alternate takes, like the "I'll cut your heart out with the spoon" is gone. I find it kind of a joyless take on it, but there's a lot more swearing and there's a lot more visceral violence, but a lot of the fun is gone, in my opinion.
Oh, I don't want that one.
Okay, so not to confuse things, but I have this extended version.
I have that one, yeah.
Which is really much better than the theatrical release. They explain some of the stuff that's going on in the background a lot better in this. So I don't think this is the R-rated.
More butt.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, lots more butts.
Yeah, sure.
There's actually this obscure British character actor named Seymour Butts.
Why, Gary?
Speaking of Christian Slater.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to circle back to Christian Slater.
Okay. Gary
oh, Joe,
butted.
I love you so much.
All
you.
right. We were getting close to the end, and I had not booted Gary yet. So,
Once a panel.
Yep.
I'm sorry, but
Christian Slater.
Christian Slater, Darin, go.
Is there a Will Scarlet version where he's the half brother of Robin Hood that I'm not aware of?
I don't think so, right?
that was an invention for this movie.
I think that was unique to this film. But I just love that. It's like it's a throwaway scene, but it's like no, it's not a throwaway scene. It's very important. Your anger at your dad ruined my life because he's my dad too. Yeah. That's why I hate you.
Yeah, we know why he had so much animosity towards him the whole movie.
Mm-hmm. It's like, and I have step siblings, so I'm sitting there going, "Oh, okay,
I get it.
That's not a minor thing."
Yeah,
I have half sisters, so I get it.
Yeah, and this was supposed to be a breakout role for Christian Slater because he was on the rise at this point. Everybody was like, he was part of the new young Hollywood, and everybody was like, "Oh, this Christian Slater guy, he's going to be great." And unfortunately, after this, he kind of.
Yeah, my brother was huge into. My brother's a few years older than me, and he was huge into Christian Slater. He watched all the Christian Slater stuff, and so that was one of the reasons why we saw this movie so many times. But yeah, I mean, he was on everything at this point.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
yeah, he'd done Cuffs and Pump Up the Volume. Heathers,
brilliant in Heathers.
Here's a final thought that I wanted to post from our buddy Kevin, and I thought this was a good point that he's
making.
That is
a good point.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I agree.
We're all quiet for a minute.
Yeah.
As we all read.
I did not expect all this reading in this panel.
You, like Deanna mentioned Snape, and every once in a while in the movies, I'll see Snape do a Hans Gruber face or a Sheriff of Nottingham face, and you just know that if the sheriff had walkie-talkies, he would have done the same thing Hans Gruber did, and he would have gone and kept talking. You know, I think that's part of what Kevin's talking about is Hans Gruber was making stuff up as he was going. He's like, oh yeah, those 7 people from Thailand that are terrorists that I've never heard of before.
Yeah.
So final thoughts, Darin. Was that it? That's
another panel? I mean, I have so much more to say.
Yeah, no, we're not done, Joe.
I'm afraid we might be. We're trying to train ourselves to go back to closer to Dragon Con lengths. Because once we get to physical live-action Dragon Con, there's no hour-and-a-half panels, sadly. So
they will come. They throw things at us.
They do.
So, all right. So my summation here is not Jeff. Please don't take this personally.
It's okay.
I really don't like this movie on so many important levels, but I really enjoy not liking this movie.
Oh, all right. Interesting.
It's a movie that's a lot of fun to not like. So, but I love Robin Hood.
No, but Darin, tell people where you can be found.
Oh, that summation. I can be found. I have an author's page on Amazon. I'm under Darin M. Bush, M for Marion, and please come look at my sci-fi and fantasy short stories. I believe there's bow and arrow in one of them, maybe.
Yeah, and Darin, for your Amazon page, could Amazon have made it any more difficult to find your author page on Amazon?
Okay.
Because I'm kind of in the same boat.
We could do a whole panel on this, but when I search for myself on Amazon, I can't find myself.
Thank you. Exactly.
There's a
Nathan.
metaphor there.
So yeah, this is a movie that even though we have criticized aspects of it, I think it's a movie that's better than the sum of its parts, and there are so many good parts also to it. And I think it's that the main takeaway is that it is just an enjoyable movie. It is a fun watch. You know, it's not a movie that is going to change your life probably, but it is a movie that, you know, is going to entertain you for 2 hours and some change. So, yeah. I mean, just take it on that standpoint, and it is a very enjoyable movie. You can find me. Oh, sorry.
No, that's what I wanted. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, and so you can find me on 42cast.com or also on Facebook at 42cast, Twitter and Instagram at 42cast. So it's pretty simple. Just 42cast, just the number 42 with cast right after it.
And Deanna.
I would say watch this movie, but treat it like a British pantomime, so that every time Alan Rickman does one of his things, just boo him, and you will have the whole experience of a British pantomime play without ever leaving your house. So, yeah, I'm not a huge fan of this movie. I am a huge fan of Alan Rickman and the supporting cast, but I think that the problems of this movie kind of pull it down a bit. But it's still something I've watched, and I enjoyed myself immensely when I watched it. I have a teacher Twitter if you want to listen to me talk about math teaching and equity and teaching. But really, I run the Revolution SF Facebook page and post a heck of a lot of memes there. Some of them I even make.
Yeah. And Jeff.
One of the greatest adventure movies ever made. For me, it combines romance, comedy, action in a way I wish movies nowadays did. It did change my life. And now after this, I'm going to do a panel with people who actually like the movie.
I do.
Not fair. There's at least 4 people who love this movie on this panel.
Anyway, you can catch me at supergeekedup.com or supergeekedup on YouTube, where we do my improv comedy show Wednesday nights, 11 p.m. Although we just had our season finale, so we're off for a few weeks. But we'll be back, and we'll do it. And we're doing it at Dragon Con live in person.
Oh yeah,
Yes, you are.
Awesome.
Yeah, so thanks for having me.
And what we got to do is on these quarantine panels, we got to do what you do is you watch Jeff's show on Wednesday, you watch our show on Thursday.
I promoted this yesterday on their show. Yes, absolutely.
Thank you. It's like network television. You got your Wednesday night viewing and you got your Thursday night.
It's like Steve Urkel coming to Full House.
Exactly.
Which he did. He made an appearance on Full House. That's actually happened.
That is correct. So the Full House verse contains Family Matters.
Yes.
And speaking of Urkel, Gary Mitchell.
Did I do that? Yes. I love this movie. You know, it's not the greatest movie ever made, but it's a fantastic good time. You will enjoy yourself. It's got great humor. It's got great action. If you haven't watched it in a while, go back and rewatch it. You'll probably be pleasantly surprised. And you can find me here every week with him. Hey, Joe. Hey.
Yeah.
And you can find me at Dragon Con with him in just a few short weeks. And you can find me on the Twitter. My Twitter thing is gone because of the way Joe has us set up. But I'm at Gary_Mitchell, Mitchell with 1 L. And so, come see me next week.
So, you guys, thank you once again. We love doing these things. Everybody follow us on the Facebook and on the YouTubes, and I don't know, send us email. You can call me if you want to.
Oh, really?
Sure. I'm going to put my phone number in the dadgum comments right now.
Oh my God. I feel like this is going to be one of our phone numbers instead.
Yeah.
It's like,
he doesn't have mine.
Thankfully, he doesn't have mine.
I was going to try to note to an arrow, but okay.
But thank you guys.
His phone number is 800 Manimal.
That's too. I was almost said that's too many numbers, but that's the exact.
That's the exact right number.
But guys,
I am
thank
honestly
you very
surprised
much.
that it's your number.
We will see you in live action in a few weeks. We will see you next week here on the Quarantine Panels when Gary Mitchell will say,
Man, I'm glad I'm finally getting to see Black Widow in the theater. Was I supposed to be on a panel? Hey, my ticket's at 8:30, Joe. Sorry.
We will see you soon.